Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Welcome back to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters, and today brings up a really important topic about what is going on in the world today, where our kids seem like they're all overly medicated, and there's all these medicines that are having adverse effects on our children. So what do you do when medicine has made your child sick? Do you take no for an answer, or do you really dive down and really research alternative ways that you can heal your child? Well, our next guest did exactly that. Morayma Makay started her journey in researching healthier lifestyle choices in an effort to help her 2-year-old son who began battling health issues after having an adverse reaction to a medicine that he was given. And with the help of doctors and her researching holistic and alternative ways to help him, she cured her son, and now he's a thriving, healthy 16-year-old boy. So this brings up that very important topic, and we also talk a lot about what is going on today. There's a lot of censorship happening. People aren't allowed to really think for themselves and are being bullied and criticized for even having an alternative way of thinking. And one of the things that I'm seeing happening now in what we're so dangerously close to losing the rights of what to do with our own bodies, what to decide what to put in our body medically. Holistic health is taken away from us. And that's a really scary and dangerous thing that can happen. And that's not saying if you're choosing to live holistically, people are calling you anti-vaxxers, when that's not exactly the case, or you're far right, or you're a Trump supporter, just because you have some different thoughts of what the narrative is currently trying to show us. We have choices, and we discuss a lot about that in this podcast. And let me give you a little bit background of Morayma, and then we'll get to our conversation. Morayma is a California beach girl turned model. And man, what a stunner she is, with a heart of gold. And she has 2 kids, and she's a writer and researcher with a deep love for all things holistic. When her son began battling his health issues, going from a healthy, bouncing baby boy to someone they said might never live a normal life again, she began to question everything. While she might not have control of everything, whether inside the home or outside the home, what she did have control over is what she would spend her dollars on, what her kids would eat, put in their bodies, and what she could do to build their immune systems. She became kind of a self-professed health nut, helping her children make healthier choices. During this time, she started working as a freelance writer. She wrote for fashion magazines, a celebrity stylist blog, a makeup artist agency, a motivational speaker, and a group of holistic and integrative doctors. She was happy and enjoyed the work, but she really needed to do more, which is what brought her to where she is now. About 3 years ago, she started a blog called Adulthood, Rewired, where she shares everything she's learned, as well as gives an honest and raw look at parenting, relationships, and other forms of relatable insanity. After taking a little bit of a break, Morayma just recently relaunched her blog, and she's excited about this new chapter in her life, and she's glad that we're coming for the ride. Hi, Morayma. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy. It's an honor, really.
Thanks. For those of you who don't know, Morayma and I met probably about 20 years ago. We used to both, isn't that crazy? 20 years
Crazy.
ago.
Crazy.
So we used to do background work. I mean, Morayma's a beautiful, gorgeous model. She's traveled the world, and her photos are just absolutely stunning. But back in the day, there used to be a group of us. It was called Extra Extra, and there was a bunch of us that worked constantly over and over and over on commercials. So we were SAG background commercial workers, and we worked all the time for a company called Extra Extra. They were amazing. So if they needed hip and trendy people, like we would always be like in the A-list, and we spent hours on set together on various commercials.
So much fun.
Yes, and we formed so many deep friendships. Some of my friendships still last today. We're still very close. And, there was many times where there were beer commercials in February. We'd be on the beach in bikinis, freezing our butts off. Okay, jackets off. We're like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was the best job ever. We were so fortunate to have been involved in that part of the industry when we could, because things are changing so much.
Yeah, they really are.
So I remember you were there, and when I started working for that company, and I'd see you on set all the time, and then you had moved, and then you had, like, I think you were traveling for work, and then you moved up to Oregon, right?
Yeah, I did. I ended up moving up to Portland. I wanted to buy a house, and housing prices in LA were too expensive, still are. And so, yeah, I went back up to Oregon where I had gone to college because I really loved it up there. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you moved up there, and then you got involved in a relationship up there, or was it down in Los Angeles?
I actually met him up in Portland. We had moved to Miami, moved to LA, and then moved back up to Portland together because at that point I had my son. So we moved up to Oregon when he was 5 weeks old. It was insane, but somehow survived that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so having your son, as I had spoke about, you write this amazing blog called Adulthood Rewired, which is a mix of lifestyle, parenting, musings. I love your random musings. I can totally align
Thank
with those. Relationships, wellness, and you write so beautifully. And I know that you had done freelance writing for a while, and then
you.
you didn't feel that fulfilled with it, right? And then you just felt like you had more.
Yeah, the writing, it was something because even though I had my son and then later I had my daughter 2.5 years later, I always wanted to feel like I could contribute financially, even if it was just buying the kids stuff or buying myself, treating myself to stuff. I always wanted to have my own income. I've never really felt comfortable relying on anyone. And so I decided, well, I love to write. I majored in literature and language arts in college. So what best thing can I do working from home with 2 little kids is start writing. So I put myself out there and ended up with a few online clients. And I wrote for, integrative doctors and the celebrity fashion stylists and makeup artists and a really random group of people. So I learned a lot from all of them. But again, it was just, I was writing for them. I was ghost writing. It wasn't anything that was me. And so I finally 3 years ago decided, when I ended up actually losing one of my biggest clients because they were a startup and they lost their funding, I was like, well, maybe this is time for me to actually write what's on my mind and have my name on it and have it be mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's one of those things where adversity kind of pushes you in a different direction.
Absolutely. And it comes through in your writing. Like, I can feel your heart in
Thank
everything
you.
you write. Yeah. And it's I can feel it. And it's such a beautiful thing. So I'd love to go into what inspired you, what inspires you with a lot of these writings. I know your son was a big catalyst to
Yes.
really open up and begin researching and questioning everything, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He was definitely, I would say, what awoke my heart and my mind more than anything was, seeing my son being a first-time mom and just not really quite understanding that maybe I couldn't trust everything that was presented to me by the professionals, and that every body is different and every body is going to react to things differently. And, on top of that, the things that were sold, be it pharmaceutically or in a store on a shelf, may not be the best thing for us. And I just trusted blindly. I didn't really have a reason not to. I thought, well, if it's out there, it can't be that bad, right? The government won't let us use it if it's not good for us. And I just, seeing him react to something that is very commonly given to young children and seeing him have neurological issues and develop horrible allergies really woke me up, because I said, I gave birth to a perfect child. This kid had no issues. He was developing on time. Everything was going fine. And then one day he's regressed. Like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Doctor couldn't give me answers. I went to all the top specialists in Portland, and it was guesswork for them. Well, maybe this, well, maybe this, well, maybe this. And that wasn't good enough for me. So I ended up staying up every night for weeks, months, years, and researching and talking to other moms and listening to their stories and putting two and two together, and then going out and finding integrative functional doctors that really looked at things from a different perspective, not just reading off a script. Like, they had Western medicine under their belt and holistic medicine under their belt. And what they taught me about diet and supplementation and the products we put on and what's in our medications and side effects and all that was mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Completely woke me up, to the point that, from that point on, that began my journey of clean eating and healthy, supplementation, and making sure that everything my kids put on their bodies is as chemical free and toxin free as possible. And it's amazing. Like, there's so much information out there. It just takes one little thing to kind of catapult you into all of it.
And tip the scales. Isn't it
Yeah.
funny how you really have to really dig and do the research to really open your eyes? And a
Yeah.
lot of that is happening now with everything that is going on beyond the narrative, beyond what they're telling us. And I'm seeing it because I don't have kids myself, but I've dove in for, holistic reasons as well. And yeah, they're just covering it up, especially now, all like pro this, pro that. And we know what that is. And
Yeah.
so you really dove, and it's really amazing what they're trying to, what they're feeding us, what they're giving us. And there's
100%.
other ways to do it. And it just comes down to, like, think, they're making money, and like a lot of people are following it blindly. And so thankfully you woke up, and because of that, you helped your son, right?
Yeah, my son is 16 now, and even though he can be a PITA, as most 16-year-olds can be, he's perfectly fine. He's normal. He doesn't have the horrific. I mean, it was horrible watching him, and I don't want to go into it too much, because it kind of just it triggers me and gives me anxiety just thinking about it. But he would not have been in a normal school, in a normal classroom. At one point, one of the specialists he went to said, this is a lifelong thing that he's going to be suffering with. We went to a top allergist in Lake Oswego up in Oregon, and he said, your kid's going to have to live in a bubble. He'll never play out sports. He won't be able to be in a room with someone, that is eating a food that he might be allergic to. Like, that's how severe things were. He would go outside when he was 3 and 4 years old to play, and would come in the house full of hives and completely blown up.
Mm-hmm.
So his body was having so many horrible responses. And as a parent, to hear that this is it for your kid, horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, I'm stubborn. I'm a stubborn woman, Nancy. And I was like, I'm going to find out how to fix this. And what I figured out, and with what you're talking about too, with what's going on now, is that, God bless the doctors. A lot of them are amazing, and I know they love what they're doing, but a lot of them also really can't think outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
They follow a script that they're taught. They know very little about nutrition, study very little about nutrition at medical school. And a lot of them only know about the medicines that they prescribe from the information they get from pharmaceutical reps. And this was told to me by doctors. So it's not like I'm just guessing this, or, I'm pointing fingers. I've had many, many specialists say, we only know what we're told by the pharma reps. Like, we don't actually know that this may be good for you. And so, it was so mind-opening to figure out that there are other doctors that want to treat the root of the disease or the root of the problem. You can't keep putting a Band-Aid on stuff. Like with, what's going on now, great. Give people different ideas of how they can stay healthy, but let's not ignore that nutrition is a massive part of keeping your immune system functioning.
Mm-hmm.
That so many people in our country have metabolic disorders, that, washing your hands is great, putting on a mask if you need to, whatever, 6 feet, all of this is great if that's what you need to do. But can we not be the person at Target filling your cart with Mountain Dew, which is what, I keep seeing. And these people genuinely don't know that they're killing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mine. And these people go to the doctor, and this and that doctor didn't say anything. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we need to educate ourselves, since no one else is going to do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
You can really take control of your health. Bad things will happen to people who are healthy as well. But I think if you can limit your chances, and you can find the root of whatever's bothering you and find a holistic way to treat it, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Right. you have to cure the root. So then you don't need medications. You don't need to go to doctors anymore because you've healed. You have to heal from the inside out. And what
100%.
I've discovered through my research is follow the money trail. And it's really
Yeah.
sad. Follow the money trail. There's no money to make if people are healthy. And I just saw something where it was the FDC was FDA, right?
Yeah. We're like, we've got so many things thrown at us right now.
FDA, they threatened a website for them to take something down because they're recommending how to stay healthy during COVID. But
Right.
because they said COVID, it was vitamin C, zinc, have like all these different supplements. And if you're feeling this, we have this supplement. And they're like, you have to take this information down. It's a violation of the FDA. And I screenshotted it. So if I ever am symptomatic, I'm taking that stuff. But it's just, they want to keep this. I can't even believe it. But people would rather just go buy mask and sanitizer and follow the narrative instead of healing yourself. When this whole thing broke out in the beginning, I wasn't afraid of it. I'm like, you know what? I trust my body. I wash my hands as it is. I'm not going to buy into that fear because I don't need that energetically being attracted to me. I'm going to be fine. And then they started mandating like, oh, these masks, you have to wear these. Now I'm pissed off all the time.
Right.
I do it out of respect to people.
Yes.
I need to. I'm going to pull the mask down if nobody's around me and breathe out of my nose. If they walk by me, I'll pull it up. Outside, that stuff's coming off because there's so much misinformation. And that's a whole other subject I don't want to get into.
Right, exactly.
We could go down, we could have a whole, like, I'm gonna have to bring
hours. Yeah. This could be for hours, but it's,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole thing. It's like, let's only give people this little bit of information, but we're not going to empower you by telling you that if you eat healthy and you get sunlight and vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc and things that other countries are telling their people they can do. Let's not do that. That's not okay. And that's what makes me mad. And that's what I discovered when my kid was little. It's like, well, we'll try this medication, and this medication now has side effects. So let me give you another medication for those side effects that are going to. And I was like, no, F this. I'm not doing it anymore because I'm watching my kid. And I'm like, and so people have a problem with, and we get criticized, I think, for doing our own research and getting our Google degrees or whatever. But I will tell you what, Nancy, I've gone in and talked to doctors and said, this is what's going on. And I want you to lab test, and I want you to do this and this. And they come back to me with their jaws dropped.
Wow.
And are like, you were right. Yes, of course I was right. You don't know my child better than I do. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And I think you can say that about your own body. Nobody knows your body as well as you do, right? And take control of your body. Do what you need to do. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least you tried.
Right. No, absolutely. And because of all this COVID stuff, I know that you were a teacher and you really enjoyed that. And you had blogged for a while, and then you were substitute teaching. And then because of COVID, you're not going to have that job back at all, right? So that inspired you to really dive back into your blogging.
Yeah, exactly. So, I lost my job on March 14th when everything shut down. Things were going really well. I speak Spanish fluently also, so I was kind of like one of the go-to bilingual teachers assistants and subs in my district for our immersion programs. And that's gone. And now we're going back to 100% distance learning indefinitely. So yeah, I figured, listen, I've had my blog out. I know my friends and family read it maybe. But I never really knew what I needed to do to kind of put it out there. And I had all these self limitations of video and really kind of marketing it. And I just decided that maybe needed to stop. And maybe once again, adversity kind of puts you in a position to either you sink or swim. And I decided I'm going to try and swim. So I'm going to really, really start marketing my blog and making it a more personal thing by creating a personal brand around it and putting a face to the words. Because people now, like, they need to listen. It's like podcasts, amazing idea, and videos, amazing idea, because people now won't just sit down and read. They just won't. Either they don't have time, or it's just not like in our mental capacity anymore, because we're so used to sound bites and memes and everything's shortened. So you need to do something that kind of connects a little bit faster with people when they're scrolling, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen your videos. I've seen you getting out there. I love it. I was like, you go, girl.
Oh, girl, I'm still terrified of it. I'm like, we worked in commercials and modeling and stuff for so long, but it's so different when you're doing it yourself. I don't like it, but
it's so different when it's just, you're talking about yourself, because the whole thought in the old program, who do I think I am? And who am I to be doing this? But who are you not to? That's the thing, is people need to hear your story. They need to hear what you're going to say, because
Yeah.
it's not up to us. There's a message on our hearts that need to be heard. And who knows who it's going to help? Who knows who needs to hear that? I know I've had terrible breakups. It's helped me through reading blogs like the ones that you're writing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's, that kind of is why I decided to start writing my blog, even though I'm a little bit deviant. I thought it was going to be all about health. And now I do random musings and stuff like that. But what helped me recover my son was reading other mothers' stories. Mm-hmm. What helped me when my dad passed away 4 years ago was people reaching out to me and telling me their stories. So it is that connection. You're right. Like breakups, divorce, all of that. You feel so isolated, but when even if it's a village of people that are out in the internet and you're connecting by what their experiences were, huge for your healing process. Mm-hmm. Huge.
Because it's like, if they've gotten through it, I can too. Oh my gosh, they understand. They've gotten through it. Look at where they are now. It's inspiring. And perfection doesn't really connect you to somebody else, but vulnerability and sharing the same stories is what really connects you to somebody else.
Yes, exactly.
It's like the stone in the river, like one ripple can affect other, it changes the whole world.
Exactly. And I think, I don't know, it's in our DNA to be storytellers. So, and I wrote a blog post about that, and it's inspired me to really kind of get out there again. It takes one person. It takes one person to relate to your story. You don't know, like, even if you just make them smile, and that's your little blog post or your video or your podcast is the only thing that made them smile that day. That's huge. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And I think about what my life or what my son's life would be now if I hadn't read other people's stories, if other moms hadn't been vulnerable enough to put their stories out there. Mm-hmm. Who knows? So
I think more now than ever, we really need this kind of connection. We really, we've always needed a connection. We're humans, but really there's so much disinformation. There's so much disheartening things that are happening on the world. There's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of wonderful things, but the constant onslaught of fear and negativity that is happening. And even when we do our own research, when we open our eyes to see what's going on, it's really depressing. But how can we take this information to empower ourselves and help other people? How can we empower them to not be afraid? How can we empower them to help make changes in their own life? Because when you change your own life, others, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, that's true. Man, that is a good question. I feel like the first step in that is to get past your own fear of sharing your information or your stories. And I know that's something that I struggled with, because when I first started figuring out what was going on with my son and like what holistic alternative medicines were working for him and stuff like that, I was open about sharing it, and I'd share it and I'd say, this really helped him with his allergies, and this really helped him with his neurological issues, and this really helped him with his night terrors. And people would DM me and say, you're crazy, you're not a scientist, you should only trust what the pediatrician says. And I'm like, I'm still going to doctors, but they're offering an alternative to what was already not working. And so then I just decided to shut up. And I'm like, I'm not putting it out there anymore. Nobody wants to listen. I'm getting criticized. My kid is progressing amazingly, but I guess I'm a bad guy. So, I think a lot of us kind of sit with that fear, and it's just important to keep telling your story in whatever way. Like, even if you don't like give absolute details, but just say, listen, I'm going through something and this is what I found helps, and just put it out there, and somebody is going to be okay with it. 5 people may tell you you're nuts, but that one person you help, I think,
And why do those people that don't agree with that have to attack? It seems like just go somewhere else. Okay, you don't agree with it. Why do you have to always argue against it? This is what I found. This is what helped me. Okay, you can't argue against that.
Right.
Someone like attaches to that and says, oh my gosh, I agree. Thank you so much. It's helped my child. It's helped myself. Okay, yes. Great. The naysayers need to just.
Exactly. Well, and I feel like that's an issue, Nancy, that has just grown and grown and grown, over the past even few years, and especially this past year. Like, I feel like everything that's happened with COVID and the protests and just, it's created such division in people. And I was talking to my boyfriend, who's not from America, and he's like, is this how it's always been? And I'm like, No, because you know what? I remember growing up as a kid and having family dinners during the holidays or whatever, and half my family was politically minded about this thing, and my other half of the family maybe had different things, and people kind of like gave each other a hard time, and a little, there were maybe a little bit of argument, but it wasn't this massive hatred to where now people are like, if you don't believe in what I believe, you're dead to me. What on earth is going on? I'm like, and I think a lot of it too is because we communicate so much only via screens that, would you tell me that to my face?
Right.
If you were standing in front of me, would you tell me that because I give my kids vitamin C instead of, I don't know, whatever medication the doctor recommended, that I'm a bad person? Would you tell me that to my face? Maybe not.
No.
I don't know. Like the screens give us this false, like everybody's a keyboard warrior and you can say whatever you want. There's no repercussion.
The trolls.
I don't know. The trolls. But
Yeah.
sometimes the trolls are people I'm like, what is going on?
I get messaged all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, just you believe what you want to believe.
Yeah. I'm like, I see stuff I don't agree with all the time and I just keep scrolling. I'm like, each their own, whatever makes you happy.
Exactly.
You're not hurting anybody.
Exactly.
You want to know?
Yeah. And I noticed this too, like back when Trump got elected, like it became, Facebook. I'm on there a lot because I advertise my podcasts and I'm in some amazing groups that are like, spiritual entrepreneurs and motivations for change. So, but it became Facebook politics and is becoming that again. And it's like such division, not just on Facebook, but that's the first way you conquer is you divide. We're so divided right now.
Right. We are so divided. I think we're more divided than ever. And I wish people would wake up and understand that the powers that be have us where they want us.
Yep.
Division creates weakness,
Yes.
And I don't care if it's about, Trump versus Biden, if it's about pharmaceuticals versus holistic remedies, if it's about, I don't know, natural beauty and fake Instagram filters. Like, I don't care what it's about. Like, can you just understand that everybody has the right to believe in what they want to believe in and do what's best in your life? Teach your kids what you want to teach them, live a good life, stop virtue signaling, and know that at the end of the day, all these people up here that are calling all the shots, they shake hands with each other. They hang out. They have they're with they're friends. They're friends, literally, and we're all hating each other. Come on. Like it's such like a situation where our strings are being pulled by the puppet masters and nobody realizes it.
I'm woke. I realize it. I see it.
Yeah, same. I'm like, snip, snip, cut those strings.
Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole, pulled myself out armed with information. And they'll call a lot of us conspiracy theorists, but no, it's just research. It's right there. All you have to do is look at it. You don't have to get lost in all the woo-woo stuff. You take what you need that aligns with your intuition, what you feel is right. And this is what feels right. And you can't, what we feel is right, you can't naysay that. And there's so many people there's so much bullying. That's what it is. Bullying. You believe this, you're a racist or you're a supremacist or you're anti-vax or you're all this. It's all coming at once. It's like, seems like a boil that's being lanced. Everything's coming to this.
Yes, absolutely. It's so true. And it's such a bizarre place to be too right now societally, because you can't say anything outside of the narrative without being pigeonholed something that you may not even be. Like just not that long ago, I brought something up about, it was the beginning of COVID. And I did bring something up about, using supplements and kind of helping your immune system. And someone was like, well, put on your MAGA hat. I'm like, what does that have to do? Like, well, how am I all of a sudden a Trump supporter because I believe in vitamins? Like, really? And it's not like I don't believe, like if we need to go to the doctor, we will go to the doctor. But I also believe that you can also manage your own stuff at home and to boost your immune system. I mean, my kids graduated elementary school with perfect attendance rewards. But I don't know what I'm doing. My kids are healthy, like they're healthy, and we don't really need to go to the doctor that often. But if we have to, we will. So, but apparently that makes, I should be wearing a red hat because I believe in natural remedies. Like, since when? Usually it used to be that the natural remedy people were like the super crunchy hippies, but now we're like, waving cafe. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. None of it makes sense to me.
Oh, I don't get it either. I see that too. It's just crazy. You taught your kids to be healthy. You raised them with great ideas. I know that you did some recent blog on your called Seeing Beyond COVID. I read that one recently, and just your thoughts around everything that's happening and your children. I feel so bad. I saw, my friend's 4-year-old walking around with a mask. This isn't right. This isn't right. And they're not going back to school, and you're spending more time with them. You're cooking them healthy dinners, which you're happy
Yeah.
about. You've got them around. But at what point, yes, you spend more time, but what is being taken away from our children? I mean, we grew up, come back when the street lights are on. We'd ride our bikes around. We camp. We're so lucky. We want that for our children.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I had my son tell me, I wish I had grown up in the 80s like you, Mom, 80s and 90s. Man, those were the best decades. We were so lucky to have grown up then. There's just so much. And I don't want to discount that there is some sort of a virus that, I don't want to discount the virus. I know people that have been affected by it. I just think that the way things are being managed leave a lot to be desired. And, you've got a generation of kids that are going to be psychologically damaged by this. And I mean, I was just having this discussion the other day of like the paranoia of some of these kids. They're so afraid now of human contact. Like, what's that going to do for them when they are older and are in relationships? What's that going to do to their ability to have like a healthy sexual life or a healthy, I don't know. I just think this fear of like, I walk down the street and there's a lot of elderly people in my neighborhood. So I will wear a mask when I'm, when I see someone coming near me, but like people will still go run across the street. And oh my God, the absolute terror that we're living in. Yes. I just don't know. And Nancy, I don't have answers. Like, I don't want to come off as like pontificating about something that I really know nothing about, but it's got to be managed differently. It's got to be managed differently. And, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I just think that we're really hurting this future generation. I mean, and I see full grown adults that have lost their minds. Like, what's this doing to the kids?
Right.
What's it doing to them?
Yeah. And at least you are giving your children things to think about, like to look outside the narrative and really teaching them to think beyond that. Right.
Exactly. I'm teaching them to think beyond that. And we've kind of always been on that path because you have a headache, here's some belladonna homeopathy. If it gets really, really bad, we'll break out the Tylenol. But like, I've never been, after my awakening, I haven't resorted to, what everybody else does, I guess, or what you see on the commercials. And like, I don't know, my kids drink, I make them bone broth with cilantro in it and they drink it. And when they were 2 and 3, they were taking spoonfuls of unflavored cod liver oil. And like, that's just how it is in my house. Like, I know it's good for you. You're going to do it. So they've always kind of been outside of the narrative when it comes to health. And when it comes to this, I'm like, yeah, let's not be paranoid and terrorized. You be careful. You do what you need to do. You wash your hands. But this is basic hygiene, right? Like, this is something you could always abide by.
Every season I did it.
Yeah.
I always punch things with my knuckles. I'm not paranoid, but I've like flu season. I'm going to like hit the ATM code with my knuckles. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to use bacteria. Not paranoid, but just basic common sense. Someone's sneezing on a plane or coughing on a plane, I'm going to cover my mouth so I'm not breathing. I go into a plane, I turn off that air vent right away. So
exactly. But that's common sense, right? Which isn't so common, I guess. But just always like, I like to make sure to remind them, and they're kids and they're teenagers. If prior to this, they'd go out with their friends and eat absolute garbage and it's shocking and then feel like crap later. But at least at home, like they know what they can do and what's expected of them. And they know that they can do some things to kind of support their immune system. And I don't know, other than that, like, it's psychologically damaging enough for kids, especially I think at this age when they're trying to step into adulthood and starting to develop freedoms, to have that completely taken away. It worries me. It does worry me. And we're pushing them now in front of screens even more with the distance learning. And it's like, I think of the movie WALL-E, where like everybody was in these little moving seats with a screen and they were obese and unhealthy and everything got delivered to them. I'm like, this is happening. This is happening.
It is. Our future generation are our children now. And it's what's crazy, Morayma, is movies that were way before this. Like, I'm watching Designated Survivor right now. I'm like, oh my God, that's happening right now. Stuff in the Matrix is happening. Like stuff that I think they're desensitizing us.
Yeah.
To like, they're showing us stuff in mainstream media, or they're showing it in movies to prepare us.
They're normal.
Kind of. Yeah. And like books like 1984, it's like
that's
happening.
That's a crazy one.
So
I just
scary.
picked up Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, and 1984, and we're reading them together as a family. I'm reading them to my kids because who knows if they're even going to cover this stuff. We got to have it at school. I don't know if they learn these, if they get taught these books at school now or not. Maybe it's high school, but just reading the first 2 chapters of 1984, my kids were like, whoa, are you serious? Like, that's literally what happens now.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I read it in 1984 because my teacher thought, well, isn't this cool? So it's 1984. Let's read the book. There was a lot then that was similar, but when you read it now, shocking.
I'm going to read.
Shocking.
Oh, Lord, let's hope that everything that is going on does not happen. I'm praying that's why I'm using my voice now and speaking up, or at least presenting it. You can make your own decisions.
Yep.
And here it is. Here's what I learned. But the bullying and the attacking, anytime you have a difference in opinion, is just mind blowing. And I'm just going to keep doing it because I have to. I can't be quiet anymore. And I'm not a political person. I never followed any politics. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm not liberal. I'm human. But right now, I've never paid more attention to what's going on after researching. And you can bet your ass I'm voting this year and keep quiet who I'm going to vote.
Right. Exactly. No, same. Like, you know, I grew up in a family that was half Republican, half Democrat. And I've always kind of felt that you can take little bits of good and bad from each one. And now you're not allowed to say that at all. Like, you're not allowed to be in the middle. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just want to do what's best for my family. And, you know, and I stay away from all the hate. Stay away from the hate because there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. And just educate yourself and read and stay off of social media as much as possible, you know, because
get on, get off.
Yeah, I mean, we're being fed a narrative on all counts, on everything, and it's been going on for years. It's just, I think, like you said, it's kind of come to a head now.
And there's massive amounts of censorship happening. Censorship.
So much. It's insane.
Fact checkers. Like, you can say this, but you can't say that. You can say this, and they're doing the polar opposite. Anything that's outside of what they're pushing, their agendas. People are being censored, deplatformed, and there was a natural wellness that just got deplatformed, like something about holistic health.
Well, see, and that really, that one kills me because so much of the help I got for my kid was all holistic. And I worked with unbelievable holistic doctors who, like I said, you know, because it was a new path for me, like I wanted holistic doctors that also had Western medicine background, that they were integrative doctors. So they kind of studied, they did study both. And it kills me because I've maintained working and friend relationships with a lot of these doctors, and they check in on my son. And the things that they post just terrifies me because a lot of the remedies that were used on my kid and stuff like that, like homeopathy, they want to make that illegal. They want to make vitamins, you know, can't have vitamins, you can't use this, you can't use that. But why? First of all, it's not hurting anyone. Look what's hurting people. How many lawsuits have been put out for opiates? And I can't think of all the medications now, but there's so many medications that have literally killed people, but you can't put a pellet under someone's tongue because it's homeopathic and we don't know if that's okay. Well, really? It's unacceptable. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if my son was little now and going through that, I wouldn't have the access to the information and the doctors and the remedies and the holistic alternative healing methods that I had when he was 2 years old, because everything's getting censored now. Everything, you know, and that's scary. That's a scary thing, but I'll keep putting out my information. These are the things that'll help you for this and this and that. And I'm not a doctor. Ask your doctor first, because you always have to like give that. You know, God forbid somebody takes vitamin C and gets a rash, and then whose fault is that? It's my fault.
It's always everybody's fault. And that's the thing about our country, especially, is it's become victim mindset. It's your fault. It's not I have no responsibility. I'm a victim. You're paying for this responsibility. Right. So
none. Exactly. So yeah, the censorship thing, that frightens me. It really does. And I do find myself screenshotting things like you said you did with like the certain remedies and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm taking notes because this may not be up for a while. So yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Well, what's wonderful are there's people like you. There's a lot of people like you. And that's what is a good thing about social. Even though like people are being deplatformed and censored, there's other people that are sharing it. There's a big community out there that are supporters of like the truth and like holistic stuff and true health, and they're just, and they're exposing things.
Yeah.
So that's what's great. We can bring people together, and there's other platforms that are being created because of the censorship. So you just have to look and seek it out and seek each other out
Yeah.
to, because we need people like us. We need people like you. We need people like the people that are out there to get some of this truth out, because so many people don't want to open their eyes and see what's really happening. I'm not just talking about this year or COVID or the whole race riots and what's behind that and all that stuff, but it's been going on for
Yeah,
years,
it has.
slowly. But this year, like, my
Yeah,
God.
it's just it's like we're in volcanic proportions right now. It's like anything can be taken the wrong way. People will blow up. You have no more friends and family, and it's like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's sad.
yeah,
I feel like
I've gotten to a point.
yeah, and I'm like,
Mm.
okay, where's the island that I can go move to and
Right.
rest?
That's what we're thinking. I had a friend like, seriously, my friend was like, seriously, I'm thinking, where can we go? Where can we go? Because this is really scary. Nobody's listening. My friends don't believe all this. Like, where can we go in the woods or something and live off the land?
Right.
Because a lot of people, especially if that vaccine happens, which is an evil, that's a whole other subject. Like, we could go on, we could do another podcast on all this with all the people, but that thing is not for the good. And there's so many people that are like, I'm not doing anything till the vaccine comes. And then they want other people to get it. If you want to get that evil vaccine, get it. Don't force all of us to get
Well,
it. Why?
and that's the thing, and it's so funny because so for so many years, like people have been like coming out with different information about vaccines and stuff like that. And it to me, it's like I don't care if you're anti-pro or whatever, anything that's rushed through, you need to be a
Mhm.
little bit worried about, and to be willing to be a guinea pig for something, that's not. I don't know. I can't. I just don't. I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words. Like I can't imagine. Just do a little research. Look what happened to the H1N1 vaccine. Look what happened to those side effects or the people that suffered the side effects. Like we're rushing through this.
Yes.
We're rushing through this.
Mhm.
And I spoke to a gentleman yesterday who's a Vietnam vet, and he's this one of those great wise old guys. And he's super pro pharma. Like he will take whatever. And he's like, I'm not doing that one,
Mhm.
because he's like, I know what happens when you rush something through the protocols. And he's like, we don't know if there are going to be immediate side effects a year from now or 10 years from now that are worse than anything that could possibly happen from this. So, I'm not coming from an anti anything stance, but I will tell you that I'm definitely very wary of something that is experimental. It's
Mhm.
experimental. And God, yeah, I don't know. That one scares me.
It does.
That one
And
does.
a lot of people, and they're already like testing it out in Africa, and they're asking for all these volunteers. Like, it's pushed through, I think, at least 4 years faster than it should.
That is right.
And they want everyone to be mandatory and declare a state of emergency. So, like, dependent on your beliefs, or like, I've got vitiligo, I've got a medical, I mean, I got an autoimmune. Like,
Yeah.
I know this was probably caused by I had a cortisone shot, and then I got all this. I started getting this. So your own rights over your own body are going to be taken away. And that's the scary thing, is people don't understand. And this vaccine, like if you even read what's in other vaccines, you're not going to want to put that in your body. I'd rather be exposed to something, let my body fight it off. Or if I was afraid of catching something, I wouldn't go outside, or I'd stay in. But then I'm wrong and I'm selfish and all this stuff. But yeah, that vaccine, they want to do the digital certificates, and they're going to restrict travel. So slowly our freedoms are being taken away, and they're desensitizing us. We've got masks. There's not that interaction. We're 6 feet apart. There's a lot more going on here. And I even had some nurses from a hospital that came in. They're like, they have to write up anything, like if it's a cough, if it's a sniffle, it's COVID, if COVID. They're like, we don't know what's going on. The way they're testing isn't even for a virus. It keeps changing every day in the hospitals. They're like, when that vaccine is, we're not getting it. I'm not getting it. We're going to go somewhere. Like people in our hospital, they're not going to get it. So they know, but a lot of them have been hushed. Like prominent people, they're threatened, their jobs are threatened, Hippocratic oaths and all that. They can't, but some brave doctors are coming out. Thank you, God, for your bravery and speaking up.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like another thing that's really concerning is like, I mean, I know a lot of people that won't get the flu shot,
I
and
don't.
just because like they just don't, and it's like they'll get everything else, but they won't get the flu shot. So I think that there might be some pushback on this one too, because it's experimental, and I do think that a lot of people are starting to open their eyes and think, well, wait a minute, like we don't want to be the first ones in line for this. Like from a holistic perspective, I would appreciate, okay, so you want to come out with this, that's fine. But can you please also come out with therapeutics or put research into therapeutics? Can you also please start teaching people what they can do besides washing their hands to supplement and to support their immune systems? What can you do? It's not going to work for everyone, but neither is a vaccine. A vaccine is never 100% for anyone. You know, I mean, my kids go to one of the best pediatricians in Los Angeles, and she was saying that when she was in medical school, she had to get the MMR repeatedly because her body just wouldn't accept it. And she never built immunity to this day. And that's one of our older vaccines, right? So like people that think that this COVID vaccine is going to be the be all end all need to understand that even if it was the safest, most amazing protocol, it may not work. So to wrap yourself in bubble wrap and hide under your bed forever until a vaccine comes out, it just doesn't make sense, because even when it comes out, it's not going to be 100%. There is no 100% vaccine. There just isn't. There's no 100% any medication. As a kid, I had allergies and I would take allergy medicine and it wouldn't work for me, but it worked for my mom. That's how it is. And it's the same for holistic stuff too. You know, one homeopathic remedy won't work for somebody else. So I just think we need to get out of this. It is a victim mentality, like we were talking about earlier, like, oh God, I can't do anything, save me. Nothing's going to save you at the end of the day. You got to try different things. You got to try and build up your immune system. You got to try and be healthy. If you feel like you want to take the vaccine, go for it. Not what I want to do, but go for it. But understand also that it may not help. It may not help. I just feel like it's too much. Like we're just too reliant on this, it's like the second coming of Christ. Like here's this thing and the heavens are going to part and we're all going to go back to normal. That's not the case. They promised us that with the H1N1 vaccine, didn't work. So that's what concerns me a lot. Like I don't want to live a life of like, this is the new normal, because there's never going to be a normal again if that's the one thing that we're depending on.
No, and
it's never.
Thing is, I think I just recently saw something, someone screenshotted the news. I think it was on the East Coast, where there was a big heading that said, not until vaccine, amusement parks, concerts, bars and restaurants. Like they're putting this in our heads, like, okay, let me just get this shot so I can go back to normal. There's not going to be a new normal, like you said.
There's not.
No, and there's always going to be a new flu. There's always going to be a new corona. There's always going to be something that's going to come out. Are we going to do this every time? We can't do this every time. We have to empower ourselves.
We absolutely do. And again, it's about doing research, and it's not hard. We have so much information at our fingertips. And I just think that even if you just pay attention, even if you pay attention to the narrative, like sit back and think for a minute. Okay, so we're not allowed to do all these things like sports. You can't do sports either until a vaccine comes out. So, okay, so we've got all this.
We can protest. Thousands of people can protest in the street. Sorry, I had to say that.
I mean, but then I can't remember if it was Garcetti or Newsom was like, well, no, but now the outbreak was because of people staying at home. I don't, that's what I'm saying. Even if you listen to MSM, there are so many different stories being thrown at us that it's like, how do you not sit there and think, wait a minute, guys? Yeah, okay, so the virus is real. It has affected people that I know, but this absolute mismanagement of information is insane. And if you are even halfway sentient, you need to kind of say, wait a minute, I'm not bowing down to any of these people, and I'm going to do a little bit of my own research, because if we're not allowed to have a normal life until a vaccine comes out, then we're never going to have a normal life. Because they're even saying, okay, so we're saying this about, we're going to have this inoculation, but at the same time, we're getting in the news that people don't develop antibodies. So if you don't develop lasting antibodies when you're actually exposed to this, how are you going to develop antibodies from a vaccine? Because let's talk germ theory. Like, let's dig a little bit into how antibodies work. Like, I just don't understand that. And I've worked with enough doctors to where I feel a little bit insulted getting all this information thrown at me, because I'm like, I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. Like, really? And then, it's already, the virus has been changing, and it's either getting stronger in some areas or it's getting weaker. And again, like, I'm in touch with doctors, actual medical doctors, because I know people love to say, oh, you like to, chiropractors aren't real doctors. No, I'm talking real, actual specialists, allergists, neurologists, pediatricians. Like, I am full of information from these people, and I'm getting it left and right. And really what it comes down to is we cannot bow down to one thing or one source of information, because nobody actually really knows what's going on. That's why you need to take control of your life. Like you're saying, like, do your own research, do what you need to do to keep yourself healthy, and put whatever information out there that you feel can help people.
Hmm. And what feels right to you? What feels right outside of your mind, outside of all this fear? Because a lot of people are making decisions through fear, and what feels right in your body. And what I've discovered and what I found out feels right. I don't like what it is. I wish it wasn't so, but I know it now, and I can't stay
Yeah.
quiet. I just can't.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but and then you also have to, like, when you put information out there, you have to also know, and I guess accept that there's always going to be a rebuttal. And I mean, like, I don't get political. I don't like to rock the boat about anything really. I just like to give information because
Mhm.
I've been very, like I said, with my kid, when I was putting out about the protocols I was using for him and it was working, and people were really rude and terrible to me. And so I'm
Wow.
like, I don't want to do that either. Let me just tell you what helps my family and me.
Mhm.
Take it and run with it. Like, let me tell you what helps with my skincare. But if that's not what works for you, fine. But
Right.
just, like, accept and move on. If you don't like it, accept and move on. If you don't like
Mhm.
it, I'm going to be nice to you. You be nice to me. Whatever. Ignore me if you want. I'll take that too. But that, I mean, I think, Nancy, that's really the thing that bothers me about, and that I have to push past with the blog thing, is that I will bring up topics that people won't agree with. I mean, some of my parenting topics, like, I think we're growing up, our kids are growing up in a generation where there's no such thing as tough love anymore, and
Mhm.
people don't allow their kids to be upset
Mhm.
anymore, and all this, and that's a whole other can of worms, and I get pushed back on that. Well, you shouldn't be so tough. Well, life is tough. Kids
Mhm.
got to learn to, pick themselves up by their bootstraps, and you still love them and you still are there for them. And I don't know, there's so much, like, I could talk to you for 5 hours.
Yeah. Well, it
But
too, because you're so nice, and you're so sweet, and your heart means well. It's very hard to get criticized or bullied over things that you really believe in and you're honestly trying to help people. And
yeah,
I've had the same thing too, where I always like want to be liked. I don't want to have a difference in opinion. Just really recently, I've started voicing things, and I present it the way you do, like make people think. If you don't
yeah,
agree with it, that's fine. I'm not going to bully it into your head. That's why we're still humans. And that's what makes us all beautiful as humans, because we are not all the same. We're not all like, what is it, Stepford Wise? We're not following the same directive.
yes,
But so many are following the same directive and not thinking for themselves. And that's what is
exactly.
scary and sad to me.
It is. It's really scary. It's kind of a Handmaid's Tale
Yes.
reality that we're living in right now. I'm like, we're all under his eye, or we're under Big Brother's eye. Like, we're all being controlled right now. And yeah, I don't know. It's deflating, and I appreciate people like you, and other some other friends that are kind of waking up, or just kind of or have always been awake
Mhm.
and are just now starting to share some information. And again, like, it's not, I don't want to be pigeonholed in with, the conspiracy theorists and this and that, because I don't feel like the information I'm presenting is a conspiracy. I'm just presenting some different information.
Mhm.
But that's what makes us conspiracy theorists now.
Right.
Because when I was a kid, it was like, you believed that the aliens were going to land, which, at this point, who knows? But
That's August.
or like, or oh, you're the guy that believes in the Loch Ness monster, or you're the guy that believes in Bigfoot. But now it's turned into, if you believe in natural medicine, now you're a conspiracy theorist. If
Right.
yeah, like,
That's
oh, and the other day, and you're right. Like, I think, like, I'm also very codependent, which is how I was raised, and it's a whole other topic. But I write about that as well, um, and I'm working past that. But when I write a comment and somebody blasts me online, I get so upset, and I need to work on that.
Mhm.
But the stag in Portland, where you're at now, I loved that statue in the middle of downtown. When I think about it, it brings back some of my best memories of living in Portland and walking by it. And to know that it was destroyed, and
Mhm.
listen, that makes no sense to me,
Mm-mm.
because that's just senseless destruction. And I have friends that are in the movement, and that is not at all what they're for.
Mhm.
All right. But we've got this other, whatever. Anyways,
Yes,
I
we
won't even
do.
get into that.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, I saw a picture of that
Mhm.
on the Portland page on Facebook, and I was like, wow, that makes me sad, because it reminds me of some of my best moments in Portland.
Mhm.
And somebody decided to rip me a new one and say that I don't care about people, I only care about
Oh
sculpture. But
my
it's
God.
like,
They're
people have lost their
destroying
mind.
the city, and the peaceful people are getting lost in the mix. They're getting lost in these other people that are just anarchists. Antifa, I'm going to say it. They're getting, I said it. Oops.
She said it.
That's what's happening. And that's what's happening now. And the feds had to come in. They had to overstep. I think the governor and everything have egg on their faces because they weren't told something had to happen. 50 days of this shit. And you're chanting, burn it down, and you're tearing down fences around the federal building. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that on a normal day. And they're doing it. 50 days of that is going to be 50 days more when we don't have a city left. I'm sorry. I'm not for that. I'm not for any violence, but something had to happen. We have to clean our streets because we miss our beautiful city. We miss peace.
Right.
So,
right. And it's just, but it sucks because like, you can't even say you're sad because something got taken down that, reminds you of your youth. You can't say anything anymore. And I'm like, wow, what country are we living in?
Yep.
And I sure as hell do care about people, 100% care about people, to the point that it's detrimental to myself because, like I said, I was raised to be codependent. And so I'm like, I put everyone ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
I put everyone ahead of me, even people I don't know. So don't sit there and tell me I don't care about people and who's dying and who has right. That has nothing to do with it. I made a comment about a sculpture, but that's where we're at now, Nancy. Like you can't voice your opinion. So, or you can, but you have to expect people to be offended.
The backlash, for sure.
Absolutely. The absolute society of everybody is professionally offended. Like everybody's professionally offended by everything. Yeah. So I don't know.
A difference.
I'm not coming off as a very nice person today, am I?
I told you when we started, the conversation, wherever it goes, it goes. Well, I always have my guests on for another time. We can go into another topic and another subject. It's just where it goes. It's what we're passionate about. The next one might go into like beauty, health, and fitness. So no. And
that might offend somebody too.
Yeah, I might have offended somebody too as well. But you know what? All you listeners, you have a right to your own opinions. We're just presenting a different viewpoint and different beliefs. So, like we said, do your own research, make your own decisions. And we want love and light. And that's what it's all about. There's a greater consciousness that's love. And just a lot of hate out there. And warriors of light, we need to keep shining.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. Like, if you were to ask me, how do you see, like, who are you? How do you see yourself? Yeah, that's what it is. I just want to share the light that's come into my life. I don't want to criticize or hate on anyone. I just want to present what's worked for me, what works for my family. If I'm disappointed in the way things are being handled in the world, be it by our government or, whoever, news reporters, whatever, then I want to be able to say that too. And it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean anything. I'm just giving my opinion. Mm-hmm. That's it. I have a lot of information that I want to be able to share and not be judged for it.
Right. And that's the thing, like people in media, a lot of times they have to grow thick skin because they get attacked all the time. It's like, oh my God, it would be so hard. Yeah. And now, anytime you put yourself up there, there's going to be the naysayers, and it is growing thick skin, and it does hurt.
Yeah.
I've myself, it does hurt. It's like, oh my gosh, should I take that down? Oh my gosh, maybe I was wrong, because it goes back to being a little girl and being criticized for something and becoming the way we thought we were supposed to be in order not to get criticized. We become something we're not. And that's what happened with you when you had become a single mom. It's like, okay, who am I? Who is Morayma? Okay, what am I all about? You rediscovered yourself, and you're always rediscovering yourself.
It's very, very true. It's a constant process of rediscovery, and I teach that to my kids because being a teenager sucks and it's hard. I get it, but it's like, it's okay to be confused and feel uncomfortable with yourself. I still do, and I'm in my 40s, and it's a constant state of rediscovery, but I don't think that stops until the day we die, right? No. And I've discovered, and what I put forth in my blog is, like I said, I'm a nonpartisan source of information, and I just want people to have alternatives. That's why I write about everything: beauty, fitness, parenting, relationships, holistic remedies. Like, I'm not anti or pro anything. No, I am pro something. I'm pro information. That's it. I'm pro information. Take what you want, leave what you don't want. Make you laugh. Maybe I'll make you think. Maybe I'll piss you off. I don't know, but I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to tell you what's kind of worked for me and put my family on a better path. And that is something that I want to clarify, because like I said, I do work with doctors. I'm not anti-medicine. A lot of when I write about holistic stuff in my blog, like, I need people to understand that I see that there's a time and a place for everything. right? There's a time and a place to get a prescription. There's a time and a place to maybe look for an alternative. There's a time and a place for everything, relationships, everything. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I hope that if nothing else, people can find in my blog that it's okay to kind of take a measured approach to everything. Like, you don't have to be totally one way or totally all the other. And I think that's where we're at societally right now. You're either all the way over here or all the way over here. There's nobody that's kind of like in the middle and giving, rational, calm information.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the onslaught, it's like, you're this or that. No, I'm this. And that's what this great country was founded on, is freedom of speeches, freedom to like practice the religion you want, to believe what you want to believe, get the education you want to get. So it feels like a little bit of that is being taken away from people, and just you're in the middle. You just want to share your knowledge and share your information. So is that a little bit of what is next for you? So you just want to keep writing your stories, sharing information? Do you have any big projects?
Yeah, I mean, I want to, ideally, I would love to be able to take my blog to a level of, where that's my business and that's what I'm doing online, and kind of expand on that, and maybe, find other multiple sources of income online. Because what happened with the lockdowns and the closures is that I think it's made me and a lot of people realize that you can't really rely on brick and mortar anymore for a paycheck. And that's a scary thing, because you grow up thinking you need to go into a building and clock in and clock out. And when that gets taken away from you, then what do you do? So I'm trying to find alternative sources of business. And I figure, I have information to give. Writing is my thing. That's my jam. So I'd like to take it to a different level. As far as bigger projects, I don't know. Hopefully those come down the pipeline. I've only really been using the information that I've learned to market my blog for the past few weeks. So that's kind of new. And I'm just going to kind of keep moving forward with that. And I want the freedom to be able to, if shit hits the fan, can I say that?
Yes.
Go, if I want to move somewhere where it's a little bit more affordable. I love LA. I've been here my whole life, with the exception of moving around for traveling and living in Portland and stuff. But, I'd love to buy a house someday, and that's not going to happen here. So, I mean, I don't know, that I like to fantasize about going out of state again, or out of, I don't know. I've always been a gypsy hearted girl. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see where this blog takes me.
Yeah, I hope you get that house. And so, I do loan signings right now, and I see people coming in, like young people that are like born in like 1997, buying second homes, and they're so young.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so heartening to see them. It opens my heart, because they're able to afford homes, two homes, or refinancing, and for a fraction, well, you can't get, like, I'm like, do you know what little piece of dirt you could get for, you can't even get a piece of dirt for what they're buying houses for in LA.
Yeah,
So,
I know, exactly. It's, and I thought that this pandemic would lower prices, and it hasn't.
no.
It hasn't.
No, it's becoming a seller's market right now too. There's multiple offers. I know even up here, I'm sure there are in LA, and the interest rates are so low right now that people who can afford to buy are going to buy, and they're refinancing. But the affordability, the ridiculousness of things in LA, because I worked in real estate for years over there. I worked in relocation services on the rental and on the buying end. And it was really, I'd be so disgusted with what my clients were able to afford and get, and what things were costing.
Yes. Exactly. And it's, and I feel like with what's happening now, people losing their businesses and their jobs, that kind of division of classes is getting even bigger in LA. And the affordability thing is a massive issue. You don't have a job, how are you going to pay $4,000? And $4,000 for a 2-bedroom is legit. What's going on here? 3-bedroom, and I don't know. We could talk about LA too, because that's another topic we could probably talk for hours. But, I've lived here born and raised here, and it's not the city that it used to be.
No,
and
no,
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I know.
Heartbreaking. So
I know. I saw it changing. It's still a beautiful place, and it's given so many memories, so many friendships, and I love it. I mean, I lived at the beach the last 6 years. I love it. And I just needed a change, and I came up here, and I love the green and the beauty. And yes, we've got some problems going on downtown as well, as does every big city.
Yep.
Hopefully, that all that'll be resolved soon, and we like you said, there's not going to be a new normal. I don't want that new normal,
No.
but
No.
things are going to settle soon, hopefully, because this can't keep going on. I think a lot of truth is going to be brought to light, and hopefully a lot of people will open their eyes and we can come back. And but what it comes down to is people being nice to each other, people allowing everybody to be who they need to be, a nonviolent, a peaceful way, not hurting other people. If they're not hurting anyone else, let them be them. Let them be
Yeah,
themselves.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
totally agree. I mean, listen, this is what we teach. We teach tolerance, right? Like that's a big deal. Tolerance is a big deal. We teach it to our kids, but as adults, if we can't be tolerant of each other, kind of hypocrites does that make us? You
Mhm.
know? Yeah. I don't know. I appreciate people like you because it's like, yeah, it gives me hope. It gives me hope that it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
have to be like judgment and hatred, and
Oh,
we're all just trying to do the same thing, aren't we, Nancy? We're all just trying to
yes.
be happy and stay healthy and love, and that's it. Like we all have that in common. So can we
Yeah.
focus on that?
Mhm.
Focus on
I
that.
agree. I
Can
agree
we be more
1,000%.
like these guys, like the pets in our lives that are
I
full of love?
know.
They're just full of love. Like that's how we need to be.
Yeah, and she's pointing to her 2 pups behind her on the couch. One just jumped on the couch. Yes, no, I come home and I love them every day. They're just in
Yeah.
nature. Nature teaches you all the time. It's a constant. It's beautiful. Like there's so much out there. So when I get all distraught or any of you get distraught over what's happening, just walk outside, put your
Yes.
feet in the earth, stick your feet in the sand or go walk in the grass, close your eyes and breathe in the beautiful air and the flowers and the pine needles. Like that will bring you back. That'll ground you and that'll bring you back to center.
Absolutely. So true.
Yes. Yeah. So, where can people find you?
Well, I've got my blog, and that is Adulthood Rewired, all one word, adulthoodrewired.com. They can find me on Facebook. If you type in Adulthood Rewired, it takes you to my Facebook pages there as well. And then Instagram, it's Morayma310. I'm sure Nancy will throw that up there because it's a weird name, but it's MORAYMA310. Yeah, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Twitter. I'm kind of putting myself all out there. My videos and my blog posts you can see on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, I hope that, some of the information I put out there resonates, helps someone, makes them smile, whatever. And that's pretty much it. And use my videos, guys, because I'm still like super, like I shoot them in my kitchen with the natural light from my window. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what it is, guys.
Yeah, and she does such a good job, and she's gorgeous to look at, and
Oh,
you
you're too
see her
kind.
love and her beauty coming straight across the screen. So, what could you tell some parents today or anybody listening what to do or where to go to start doing some of this research to go beyond, what the doctors, what the narrative Western medicine to kind of delve into more a holistic approach?
What I would do, and God, you know what? I wish I would have done this prior to having a child. So when I hear people are pregnant, I always think, God, do this do this research prior to having your baby. I think it's really important to pay close attention to your children. Intuitively, you know what's right and what's wrong with your child. But I think that a lot of conditions right now are being normalized. And so we think that it's normal for all kids to have allergies, or it's normal for them to have neurological issues like tics and things like this. This type of thing has gone through the roof. Oh, I mean, like it's unbelievable how many kids have these things. So I think sometimes parents and even pediatricians will be like, this is just how it is, and we'll treat it with whatever medication. Here's some antihistamines or whatever. I think that you need to allow yourself to think of the possibilities. I instantly was like, there have to be possibilities that my kid is going to be back to normal. Like I said, he developed horrible allergies and some neurological issues as a side effect from some medication that he was given when he was little, and that he kept getting other medications given to combat that, and it all kind of made it worse. So I was like, I would go online and I would type in whatever he was going through, say motor tics, and then remedies, and that would pop up stuff. And I ended up going on boards where there were moms sharing their stories, and they were saying this worked, and we went to this doctor, and and just like kind of take it little by little, step by step, and start piecing the puzzle together, because that's ultimately what it is. Your kids' health, your own health is a puzzle. If one piece is missing, things aren't going to work right. So you're just going to take one piece at a time and start fitting things together. And like I said, Nancy, and it wasn't like I went on this, like, I'm going to go live in the middle of the forest and feed my kid ferns and mushrooms and that's it. Like, that wasn't it at all. I would take the information that I found, and I would go to the doctor and I would say, what do you think about this? And he would be like, oh, I don't know. Well, it's safe, so you might as well try it. And then I would try it and then I'd report back. And so I feel like even I gave my kid's doctor at the time, some information that he didn't have, and put him in contact with the other holistic practitioner that we were working with. So again, it's like, it's a slow process and it's pieces of a puzzle, but you have to be persistent. You have to be okay with asking questions. And again, Nancy, it's not just with your kid. It can be about your own health. Like, if something's not right, ask questions, seek information, get 2 or 3 different, I can't think of the word now. Opinions. I think, sometimes we're afraid of upsetting our doctors, and because they're the doctor. And so, they studied and we don't want to question them. Question everything. And that goes for everything in life. Question everything. Listen to your gut. Your gut will tell you 100% what's right, what's wrong. I don't know. That's really all I can say. And it can be a long and arduous process, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it. If you can create health in your child or yourself or your partner or your friend or your pet, do it. The information's out there, and the people are out there, and the doctors are out there. You just have to find them.
Do a little reconnaissance. You said something really important. It's your intuition. What feels right to me? Something's not right. That's a little, like, what is it? Tapping on your shoulder, like little da, 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 something's not right. Da, 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 something's not right. And then you get a 2x4. So listen to that little nudging, that voice, do your research. And the great thing is, Morayma found a lot of information. You found a lot of information from other mothers, other women, other people sharing the same story. So you take what they've learned and you look at something else, you go to the doctor, you piece it together, piece it all together. And so that's why it's so important for people, women, men, to voice, to speak up, to talk about these things, because it's going to help somebody else save themselves or save their children, or just have a different way of thinking.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people I think sometimes people don't like to talk about things, maybe because they think it's too personal or it's embarrassing or nobody's going to care, or it's not big enough of a deal. But, got to push past that, because, not to take up too much more of your time, but I watched a live with this amazing guy. His name is Tariq EQ Amawi, and he does TED Talks on storytelling and that kind of thing. And he said something so poignant. He was like, it's in our DNA to tell our stories. So even just giving information on, like, an herbal remedy or whatever, that's still telling your story. So, we come, and it doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your religion, your geographic location, we all come from storytellers. And our people, we descend from sitting around the fire and listening to the village elders telling us stories that would help us survive, that would help us feel better, that would help us take care of our children or our elders or whatever. So we have that blueprinted in us, right? So let's not stop that. Let's keep that up, keep that tradition of storytelling up. And now we've got social media and all these other ways of spreading our story beyond our little, group, our little tiny family or whatever, like, you can spread your story to the world and you really don't know who you're going to help. And there was a show not long ago that I only watched 1 or 2 episodes. It was a medical show, and doctors would come in with a patient that had, like, some really bizarre issue, and they wouldn't know what to do. So they would put it out on the internet, and they would, see who medically and anecdotally had been through the same thing, and kind of go through all the different remedies that worked for them until they figured it out. And that's another example of storytelling. You put your story out there. You don't know who it's going to help or who might help you, who might come up with another solution for you.
And that's when the social media and the internet can be used in such a powerful way, because think about it. So many people are isolated right now because of COVID. They're not leaving their houses. They're not connected to their families. They're not going out with their friends. Like, how isolating would it be to not have people that you can meet online that believe in the same things you do?
Exactly.
The same cause. Especially when you're thinking outside the box, you might think you're so alone, but your gut is telling me this isn't right. To have everyone, like, telling you you're wrong or bullying you, to not have these people that support you.
Exactly.
Important.
Exactly. Yeah, it's here. if you use social media the right way, it becomes your village, right? It really does. It's just, we're not using social media. Not everyone is using social media the right way right now. And I actually there's a blog post in there somewhere too about that. It's called Social Media.
Go find it.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's called Social Media because so much of our use of social media becomes a glorification of yourself. And there's no really helping in that. And I think that's where a lot of insecurities and kind of that hatred comes from. Like you start to feel like crap. So you're just going to be mean to someone else. Let me bully somebody online. It makes me feel more powerful. And I don't know. Yeah.
It's turned everybody back into 5th graders or 6th graders when they used to bully each other. It really has.
It totally has. It totally has. Because even some of the things I see that people say to each other, I'm like, really? How old are you? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Shake yourselves.
Yeah. The comments like, oh my God.
I know. Exactly. I'm like, nobody can have polite discourse anymore. It's all like mudslinging and name calling. Like, you guys. It's embarrassing, but yeah.
That's why it's good to have your own platform and your own blogs and take it outside of that. So I've loved talking with you. I just want to wrap it up with the question I ask all my guests.
All right.
What does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart?
What does it mean to me to live with an awakened heart? That is such a great question. To be brutally honest, I think it means 2 things. It means you have a much more elevated experience in life when you live with an awakened heart because you have more tolerance. You feel more light. I don't know. It's just such a more inspiring state. It's a more hopeful state to live in. At the same time, it can be heavy to have an awakened heart because for a lot of the things that we've said, I think you feel a lot more deeply about things. You might empathize more with people, and that can be heavy. And so I feel like living with an awakened heart is an amazing, beautiful experience that you need to learn how to balance so you don't lose yourself in the negativity that you will be more sensitive to. Because if your heart's closed, you're just not feeling anything. When your heart's open and awake, you're going to feel everything deeply, the good and the bad. So that's what it means to me. I don't know. It's always a balance. I'm always like, this is so amazing, but let me make sure that I'm doing what's right for me and not losing myself in everything else.
Yeah, I love that answer. And it's so true. You're living with an awakened heart. You're awakened, but you can't close your eyes to stuff anymore. So you're awakened, you're bringing all the beauty and sending all that light, but then there's a lot of darkness that comes in. So how do I take that darkness and turn it back into light, right? How do I transform this? So it's a responsibility as well.
It is. It is. And then again, that's where the storytelling comes in, and that's where mindfulness comes in, and self-care and all of that. Really important to keep things balanced.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Morayma, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me on here. We can go off into so many different subjects. You had an amazing life as a model, traveling the world. You've been a mom, you're a writer, you're doing so many amazing things to open up the eyes and just sharing your stories, like encouraging other people to share their stories, listen to the stories, tell what's on your heart. And you're going to help so many people through your blog. And,
thank you.
And Adulthood Rewired, you guys got to go check it out. Subscribe, and I know I'm an avid reader myself, and everything she puts out, you have to check out her videos as well. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. And man, those modeling photos, hello. Beautiful.
You are too kind. Thank you so much, Nancy. And likewise, I feel the same about you, and it's always amazing to talk to you.
Yeah, you
too.
Thanks.
Kindred spirit.
Kindred spirit. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awakened Heart Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenedheartpodcast.com.